Today we have discussed in detail about hypersensitivity reaction. We have talked about there are 4 types of hypersensitivity reaction: type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. But before we really start about hypersensitivity reaction, I would like that you must have a concept about immunity. What is immunity? What are the types of immunization? What are the primary response and secondary response? So let's start from the very beginning. What is immunity? First of all, it is the ability of an organism to resist against any infection or any toxin by the action of antibodies and white blood cells or WBCs. You can see it is the defense system of the any organism. And we talk about antigen, antibody. Antigen, a substance which stimulates or which challenges our immune system or immunity. And there are few globulins like alpha globulins, beta globulins, and gamma globulins. Most important are gamma globulins called immunoglobulins. IgA, IgG, M, E, D are the antibodies which react against that antigens. So there are 2 types of immunity: innate immunity and acquired immunity or adaptive immunity. First of all, we will talk about innate immunity. Innate immunity is also called natural immunity or non-specific immunity, or it is also called inborn immunity. If you talk about in detail, this is the first line of defense against any antigen, or you can say it is the first line of defense without antigen specificity. Like, it doesn't matter if the antigen is bacteria or a virus or a parasite or anything else. So it is a first line of defense against antigen without antigen specificity. So it is a non-specific immunity. And there are 2 components of innate immunity. First of all is humoral component and cellular component. In humoral component of innate immunity, we will talk about complement system. Through complement activation, there is a humoral response of innate immunity. By cellular component, you can see the natural killer cells, mast cells, basophils, eosinophils. These are the cellular component of innate immunity. And the mechanism of action of innate immunity, there are 3 mechanisms. First of all, the anatomical defense, or you can say anatomical mechanism of action, in which we have talked about skin. The skin is the first barrier which helps us to protect against any antigen. Then we talk about mucus. This also, the endothelial tightly bound with each other, which protect our body. Then we talk about cilia, present in the most common in the respiratory tract. If you can move here, in our respiratory tract we have cilia over here, and due to the movement of the cilia, it protects our body. Like, if any antigen or a virus or a bacteria or a pathogen enters into our respiratory tract, through this movement of the cilia, it will comes upward, you can say upward, and with the reflex called cuff reflex, that pathogen will be out of the body. This is the cilia, also anatomical part of innate immunity. Then lastly, we have stomach. Acid production in the stomach is also helpful for innate immunity. And then we have effector cells like cellular macrophages, basophils, eosinophils, mast cells, natural killer cells, and complement systems. And then we have mediators from these cells like leukotrienes and interferons. These are helpful in innate immunity. Then secondly, we have talked about adaptive immunity or acquired immunity. That is more powerful and antigen specific immunity. And the product of adaptive immunity, it is a product of lymphoid tissues. And what are the lymphoid tissues? There are 2 types of lymphoid tissues. First of all, central lymphoid tissues and peripheral lymphoid tissues. In central lymphoid tissue, we have 2 organs. First of all, the thymus, and second one is bone marrow. In peripheral lymphoid tissue, we will talk about lymph nodes and tonsils and spleen and blood lymphoid tissues. And in central and peripheral lymphoid tissue, the lymphocytes are present. They reside and respond against any pathogen. Okay, if we talk about adaptive immunity, there are 2 types of cells are involved: B cells and T cells. B cells, there is no fun in telling, B cells are involved in the formation of antibodies, and T cells, they express the surface antigen receptors. Then the components of adaptive immunity: humoral component and cellular component. In humoral component, we have talked about antigen antibody complex, and these are very helpful for intracellular bacteria. And for extracellular bacteria like Mycobacterium tuberculosis or Mycobacterium leprae and TB and leprosy, these are the extracellular bacteria, and for that we have cellular immunity. Then we will talk about responses of immunity. There are two types of response: primary response and secondary response. The primary response of immunity having low magnitude. On the contrary, the secondary immune response having high magnitude. Primary immune response is having slow onset, but secondary immune response has fast onset. The primary immune response having antibody associated with IgM antibody, but for secondary response we have IgG antibody. The primary immune response is short-lived, but secondary immune response is long-lived. And there are two things like in secondary immune response, there is a repetitive exposure to the antigens, and immunological memory is involved in secondary immune response. Then we have talked about immunization. What is immunization? This is the practical use of immunological memory to protect against any infectious disease. So we have two types of immunity, like passive immunization and active immunization. What is passive immunization? We give antibodies to the patients who is already infected by any pathogen or any antigen. But active immunity, we give antibody immunity prior to the infection, before infection, you can see. The passive immunity is short-lived. The half-life of the passive immunity is about 3 weeks, but the life of the active immunity is, you can say, lifelong. In passive immunity, we give antibodies from the human serum, that is antibody against passive immunity against hepatitis A, and the passive immunity from the animal serum, that is antibody and immunization against the tetanus infection. And in passive immunity, we have talked about IgG and IgM. IgG, due to low molecular weight, that crosses the placenta and it transfers from mother to baby. And IgA, it comes also in passive immunity. The transfer of IgA from mother to child is breast milk. Then to remember the passive immunity, we have mnemonic card: to be healed very rapidly before dying. T for tetanus toxoid, B for botulinum toxin, H for HBV, B virus, B for varicella virus, R for rabies virus, and D for diphtheria toxin. And if we talk about active immunity, there is the production of antibodies and memory cells, and prior to the infection, or you can say the immunization against the rubella or the polio, mumps, measles, or hepatitis B virus. That is lifelong, and in which in active immunity we used these vaccine that may be killed, may be inactive, or may be attenuated. And then at the end we have talked about antibodies. There is no fun in telling that any antigen will come to the naive T cell, and naive T cell will convert into T helper 2 cell. T helper 2 cell will stimulate the B cell, and B cell will convert into plasma cell that will secrete antibodies. And what are the antibodies? All antibodies having two light chains and 2 heavy chains. You can see over here. Plasma cells, they produce antibodies. Every antibody have 2 light chains and 2 heavy chains. You can see over here. These are the light chains, and these are the heavy chains. And these light and heavy chains having a constant portion and variable portion. The variable portion is for the attachment of the antigen, and this constant portion is attachment for the complement. C for constant and C for complement, to remember. And these antibodies are, these 5 antibodies mnemonic is gained. And immunoglobulin G or IgG antibody is the most abundant antibody in the blood and in children also. And due to low molecular weight, they can cross the blood-brain barrier, and they are helpful for in bacterial or viral infection, and they can also activate the complement system. Then IgM antibody, it is also IgA antibody. This is also called respiratory or mucosal antibody, secretory antibody, because this respiratory mucosa, they continuously keep on secreting the IgA antibody, helpful for defense of the body. Then IgM antibody, IgG for the secondary immune response, IgA for the primary immune response, and they cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. It's not blood-brain barrier, sorry. They cannot cross the placenta. And IgM, this is also helpful for the bacterial and viral infection, and also activate the complement system. Then IgE antibody, they are against the parasites, helminthes, hookworms, and they are released by basophils and mast cells, and they are helpful in type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. At the end, IgD antibody, the role is undetermined so far. So now we will talk about hypersensitivity reaction. That is our main topic. What is hypersensitivity? This is the state of exaggerated or inappropriate immune response to any antigen, which results into tissue injury. But normally, what should have a human must have a balance between endogenous antigen or exogenous antigens normally. But if a person having hypersensitive, or you can say exaggerated or inappropriate immune response to any antigen, which will end up in tissue injury. So that was a good definition of hypersensitivity. For there are 4 types of hypersensitivity reactions. First 3 are humoral, and fourth type of hypersensitivity reaction is cell mediated. And if we should talk from the beginning, we should remember this mnemonic called ACID. A for type 1 hypersensitive reaction is also allergic or anaphylactic or atopic. Type 2 hypersensitive reaction is cytotoxic. Type 3 hypersensitive reaction mediated by immune complex. And type 4 hypersensitive reaction is delayed. So starting from the very beginning, type 1 hypersensitive reaction, that is immediate type of hypersensitivity reaction, also called IgE mediated hypersensitivity reaction, also called allergy, also called atopic reaction, also called anaphylactic reaction. So what happens in the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction? There is the first exposure of any allergen, okay, any antigen which causes the allergy, named as allergen. So any first exposure of any allergen, maybe pollen grain or maybe dust, then first of all it will enter to our body, it will bind to our naive T cells. Naive T cells will convert to B helper 2 cells, that are helper T cells. That will stimulate our B cells, and B cell will convert into plasma cells, and plasma cell will release the antibodies, IgE antibodies. Then IgE antibodies being formed by the plasma cell will attach at the cell membrane of mast cells. So now you can see over here, this is the first exposure of any allergen binded by the naive B cell. Naive B cell will convert into T helper 2 cells. T helper 2 cell will stimulate the B cell, and B cell now converts into plasma cells. Those plasma cells are the cells which makes antibodies, IgE antibodies. So type 1 hypersensitivity reaction is also called IgE mediated hypersensitivity reaction. So now IgE is formed and being attached at the cell surface of the mast cells and the basophil cells, most importantly mast cells. So but when there is a second exposure of the same allergen, then what will happen? This allergen will bind at with the IgE antibody, and there will be degranulation of the mast cells, and they will release immediate mediators and delayed or late mediators. The immediate mediator like histamine, they will act within second to minutes. The histamine that is preformed in the mast cells when second exposure of the antigen binds with the antibody, that is IgE antibody, on the surface of the mast cells, histamine is released. That is very important for the immediate response within second to minutes. And as we know, the function of the histamine is increase vasodilation, increase vascular permeability, smooth muscle contraction, increase secretion from the lacrimal gland, nose and the stomach, and bronchospasm. And you can see, you have some experience like that. If someone is having dust allergy or pollen grains, it is difficult for him to breathe, and abdominal cramps due to smooth muscle contraction, and difficult to breathe due to bronchospasm. And if there is a local, there will be redness due to vasodilation, and maybe swelling due to increased vascular permeability. That's why we give anti-allergic or antihistaminic drugs to reduce this allergy. So now, for the delayed or late response, mediators from the mast cells are leukotrienes, prostaglandins, and platelet activator factors. But for late response or delayed type of reaction, we have neutrophils and eosinophils also have some role. But most importantly, mast cells. Why it is late or delayed? Because it takes 24 to 48 hours after the second exposure. And there are some other factors which causes the mast cell degranulations are physical stimuli, platelet activating factors, or complement systems. And due to the degranulation of these sites like leukotrienes, prostaglandins, or platelet activating factor, there is a delayed response of immunity. Now we will talk about what are the reactions or examples of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. If there is there is a insect bite or anything like which disturb our skin, what will happen? The skin will react in two manners. Urticaria, that is the, you can say, the swelling and redness and itchiness, and then we have angioedema, the edema or swelling of the eyelid, lips, tongue, larynx and trunk. So these are the, you can say, response of skin against any allergen causing the allergy. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So now then we talk about nose. If there is inhalation of any pollen or pollen grain or dust particle, then there will be increased secretion of the nasal mucosa, runny nose, you can say allergic rhinitis. For allergic rhinitis, don't forget the player called eosinophils. They are very helpful for the, or you not helpful, they are responsible for allergic rhinitis and hay fever also. If we talk about lungs, if there is inhalation again of any allergen like pollen grain or dust particle, lung will react in such a way that there will be airway obstruction and there will be wheezing. Then last but not the least, how the intestine react against any allergen. Any allergen called maybe seafood or maybe any nuts, there will be increased secretion and there will be smooth muscle contraction. Due to smooth muscle contraction, there will be abdominal cramps and pain. And due to the increased secretion, there will be diarrhea. So collectively, it is called allergic gastroenteritis. At the end, we have three tests to test the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction is positive or negative in a particular patient or person. First of all, scratch test or skin prick test, or we can say puncture test, in which we puncture the skin with a pin and we inject any kind of allergen. Then we see the reaction. Then we have a radioimmunosorbent test, and at the end we check the level of IgE in the blood called ELISA, E-L-I-Z-A, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. So these three tests are for type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Now we'll talk about type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. This is antibody mediated, or you can say cytotoxic, C from acid, cytotoxic type of hypersensitivity reaction, antibody mediated hypersensitivity reaction against the antigen containing tissues. These antigen containing tissues may be endogenous or may be exogenous. Endogenous antigens are maybe the antigens present on your red blood cells. If a person having a blood group A, it means the antigen A is present on the surface of its red blood cells. So exogenous antigen may be the drugs. So against these antigen containing tissues, there is a reaction of antibodies, also called antibody mediated hypersensitivity reaction. These antibodies are IgG and IgM. So now there are three mechanism of actions how in type 2 hypersensitivity reactions things happens. First of all is complement mediated cytotoxicity. What's happening in the complement mediated cytotoxicity? Antigen antibody complex that stimulates the complement system, and there is no fun in telling. We have talked about that in complement. When they are activated, there are three types of three functions being done by the complement systems. First of all is opsonization, like C3b. Then there will be phagocytosis. Then at the end we have lysis of the cell via membrane attack complex. You can see opsonization, phagocytosis and lysis. The second mode of action in type 2 hypersensitivity reaction is antibody bounded cell mediated immunity, cellular immunity, cell mediated cytotoxicity. These cells like antigen antibodies are being recognized by the natural killer cells and macrophages and mast cells and eosinophils, that they will recognize the antigen antibody complex and they will destroy it. Then last but not the least, we have antibody mediated cytotoxicity. These antibody mediated, there will be stimulation or inhibition of these receptors, or you can say this is the antibody mediated cell dysregulation. If there is antibody, autoantibodies are being formed, if they stimulate any kind of receptors, like in TSH receptors, we have pathology called Graves' disease, and they may be inhibit the functions called myasthenia gravis. What is myasthenia gravis? This is the muscular weakness in which we have autoantibodies against the acetylcholine receptors, and this is a muscular weakness. There is a differential diagnosis between myasthenia gravis and Lambert-Eaton syndrome. In myasthenia gravis, we have autoantibodies against the acetylcholine receptors present at the postsynaptic neuronal membrane. So with and Lambert-Eaton syndrome, we have autoantibodies against the calcium channels. So calcium channel being blocked in the Lambert-Eaton syndrome. So now we'll talk about some examples in type 2 hypersensitivity reaction, that is antibody mediated. Again, first of all, if there is antigens present on the red blood cells or the platelets. Number one example is transfusion reaction. When you transfuse any mismatched blood, and there will be antigen antibody reactions. Antigen present on the RBCs. Then second one is hemolytic anemia in the newborn, are also called erythroblastosis fetalis. If there is antibodies from the mother will attack the antigens of the baby, the antigen present of the baby's RBCs. And then third we have autoimmune hemolytic anemia, or if there is a antibodies attacking the antigens present over the platelets, that it will lead to the thrombocytopenia. Second example of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction is antigen present on the basement membrane, and there is no fun in telling. Basement membrane is made up of which type of collagen? Type 4 under the floor. So suppose we can see over here, if this is afferent arteriole and this is efferent arteriole, this is what? Glomerulus. And this is what? Bowman's capsule. And there is no fun in telling. This is proximal convoluted, this is loop of Henle, this is distal convoluted, this is what conducting duct. So what is going on? The autoantibodies present against the basement membrane present over here, and due to the antibodies reaction present with the antigens on the basement membrane, there will be bloody urine called hematuria. And if the antibodies attack against the antigen of the basement membrane present at this level, suppose this is the alveoli and this is pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein, the autoantibodies are being attacking the antigens present on this basement membrane, then there will be bloody cough called hemoptysis. This is hematuria or hemoptysis. So this makes a syndrome called good posture syndrome, in which there is nothing good for the patient. Bleeding is being, the patient is bleeding from the renal system, and patient is bleeding from the respiratory system. Nothing good for the patient. Good posture syndrome. Then lastly, there is a stimulation or inhibition due to the autoantibodies. If there is stimulation of the system due to autoantibodies, the example is Graves' disease, in which there is increased secretion of the T3 and T4 level, hyperthyroidism will be there. And inhibition by autoantibodies, myasthenia gravis, as autoantibodies are being found against the acetylcholine receptors present in the postsynaptic membrane. But in Lambert-Eaton syndrome, the autoantibodies present in the calcium channel blocker at the presynaptic membrane. So this is differential diagnosis. You should not forget about that. And what happened in myasthenia gravis? In the beginning, there will be normal activity, but with the passage of time, the activity being slow, muscle becomes weak. But in Lambert-Eaton syndrome, normally the muscles are weak, but with the passage of time, there will be increased activity of the muscles. So in which we, talked about that if there are two patients, one is having myasthenia gravis, another is having Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and you give lamb to both of them. What is lamb? Lamb, the baby of sheep.
Yes.
Lamb. And what will happen? Myasthenia gravis will in the beginning will eat very fast, and with the passage of the movement muscle becomes weak and weaker. It cannot eat that lamb fully. But on the other hand, Lambert-Eaton syndrome, in the beginning the movement will be slow, but with the passage of time it can increase very fastly. So who will finish the lamb? The person having Lambert-Eaton syndrome. And myasthenia gravis cannot completely eat that. So to remember this myasthenia gravis and Lambert-Eaton syndrome, patient who already have eaten that lamb, Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and myasthenia gravis can't eat that. So come back. Then another example is lupus nephritis. It is an example of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. When there is a word called lupus comes, it means there is an autoimmune problem, like systemic lupus erythematosus. That is a type of type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. But lupus nephritis is a type of it is a type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay. Or in type 2 hypersensitivity reaction, it will happen if there is injection of any antibody or toxoid. So that was about type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. Now comes a third type of hypersensitivity reaction. From the A side, it starts from I, immune complex mediated. What happens? The immune complex will stimulate the complement system, and the activated complement system will accelerate the polymorphs. And there are two types of hypersensitivity reaction. If the immune complex, there is systemic immune complex disease called serum sickness, or local immune complex disease called arthus reaction. So starting from the systemic immune complex disorder, or systemic or serum sickness, there are three phases. In phase 1, what is happening in phase 1? There is antigen antibody complex is being formed in the circulation. It takes 5 days. In second phase of systemic immune complex disease, antigen antibody who are previously formed in the circulation will stuck at maybe at the skin, at the joint, at glomerulus, in the kidney or the serosal surfaces. And in third phase, it takes 10 days after the exposure of this antigen antibody complex being formed. There will be acute inflammation. You can see these immune complex will stuck at some blood vessels, and due to the stucking of the immune complex at the blood vessel, there is inflammation of the blood vessels. And inflammation of blood vessel is called vasculitis. So this vasculitis then will lead to the activation of the complement system, and there will be complement mediated necrosis will be there, called necrotizing vasculitis. And if this vasculitis affects many organs, it is called example for this, that if complement system affects many organs, example is systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE. But if the vasculitis involve only one organ, single organ, example is post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. You can see over here. If vasculitis involves many organ, SLE. If the vasculitis involves single organ, post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. Necrotizing vasculitis, like necrosis due to inflammation of the blood vessels, or we have talked about necrotizing fasciitis, necrosis due to bacterial infection and all. And same true with the necrotizing cellulitis. And in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction following the necrotizing vasculitis, it is also called fibrinoid necrosis. And what is necrosis? First we have talked about that. What is necrosis? Under pathological condition, death of large group of cells followed by acute inflammation. And what is fibrinoid necrosis? Immune complex being stuck at the blood vessels. So now we will talk about local immune complex disorder, or called Arthus reaction. And there will be locally antigen antibody complex being formed, and same procedure like systemic immune complex disease. There will be activation of the complement system, and there will be necrotizing vasculitis and fibrinoid necrosis will be there. And examples for local immune complex disorders are hypersensitivity pneumonitis and farmer's lung disease. It takes 6 to 8 hours after the exposure. To remember the disorders related with the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, don't forget this mnemonic called SHARP. Farmer, S stands for SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus. Then S for serum sickness. H for hypersensitivity pneumonitis, Hashimoto thyroiditis, or Hino-Schönlein purpura. Then A for Arthus reaction. R for rheumatoid arthritis or reactive arthritis. P for post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis polyarthritis nodosa. And farmer for farmer's lung disease. Plus we have two disorders called celiac disease, having sensitivity to the gluten. So we should give gluten-free diet to the patient. And then we have GBS, or someone is saying Guillain-Barré syndrome, and some are pronunciating as Guillain-Barré syndrome. And what is also type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. What is happening here? There will be ascending paralysis. Like there will first of all paralysis of the fingers, then forearm and arm, paralysis of the toes, then legs and all that. And coming from the periphery to the central, or you can say through the ascending paralysis, when the cause of death in Guillain-Barré syndrome is respiratory arrest. You can imagine it is having a feature of ascending paralysis. So ascending means going up. So from bottom to top, lower limb, then trunk, then torso. So once there will be respiratory paralysis, so there will be death of the patient in Guillain-Barré syndrome due to respiratory arrest. So that was about type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Now we will talk about last but not the least, type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. D from the SN, delayed hypersensitivity reaction, or T cell mediated hypersensitivity reaction. Maybe T helper cells, or maybe cytotoxicity, maybe CD4 or maybe CD8.
Yes.
So it takes 48 to 72 hours after the exposure of any antigen, to the immunized or hypersensitive patient. So these are just what hypersensitivity reactions. Fourth type of hypersensitivity reactions having two pathways. First of all, involving CD4, that is helper T cells, and second one is CD8, that is cytotoxic T cells. So what is happening? First of all, any antigen comes into your body, there will be macrophages. Macrophages are what? Antigen presenting cells. What are the antigen presenting cells? Macrophages or dendritic cells or antigen presenting cells, APCs. So once antigen being recognized by the macrophages and will be engulfed by the macrophages and will be presented to the CD4 helper T cells. And CD4 helper T cell will be having attachment with the MHC class 2 molecule, major histocompatibility complex 2 or HLA, human leukocyte antigen. Why it is called human leukocyte antigen? Because in humans it first of all being seen from the leukocytes, human leukocytes. Leukocytes, these cells.
Yes.
So CD4 with the involvement or attachment with the MHC class 2 molecule will release at the end some cytokines. What are the cytokines? Like macrophage migration inhibitor factor or macrophage activating factors. What are the macrophage activating factors? These are the most strong macrophage activating factors are interferons. So at the end there will be intracellular destruction. What are the examples of CD4 mediated type 4 hypersensitivity reaction? First of all, tuberculin test or Mantox test that we use for TB. It is positive or negative. So what is happening in the Mantox test? If someone is having TB, normally it will become positive in the Mantox test. But if someone is having TB, then what are the conditions in which the maybe Mantox test is negative? Is if the patient is taking immunosuppressive drugs. Any drug which suppresses the immunity or these CD4, CD8 cells, then there will be no positivity in the Mantox test. And for the vaccine of the TB, which vaccine we use? BCG, Bacillus calmette-guerin, and in the indurated area will be there soft. The soft tissue becomes hard and firm due to the presence of macrophages and T cells. Don't forget this thing. Then last but not the least, another part of type 4 hypersensitive reaction with the help of CD8 cytotoxic T cells. So cytotoxic T cell will destroy the antigen containing cells, and the examples of CD8 mediated type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, graft rejection. If someone is taking someone is donating liver to another person, then graft rejection is an example of type 4 hypersensitivity reaction and CD8 mediated. Second one is immune resistance against the virus and fungal infection. Tumor immunity, it is also comes under the type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. And last but not the least, contact dermatitis. Most important substance is nickel. In females there is a nickel sensitivity about 8 to 10%. So that was about contact dermatitis, and something about CD4 mediated type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. First of all is tuberculin test or Mantox test. Second one is granulomatous inflammation. And lastly we have number 3 is MS, multiple sclerosis. What is happening in the multiple sclerosis? This is also autoimmune. All the disorders we have discussed, either is a Guillain-Barré syndrome, multiple sclerosis, contact dermatitis, or anything we have discussed today, it's all about hypersensitivity reaction. Either it is type 1, type 2, type 3 or type 4. You should not confuse in such kind of disorders. What's happening in MS, multiple sclerosis, there is autoantibodies present in the fatty tissue which usually covers the neurons in the brain and spinal cord. It is called myelin. It is the fatty tissue which protects the neurons of brain and spinal cord, and autoantibodies are being formed against these myelin tissues. So that will end up with the disorders related with the brain and spinal cord. So that was about type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. Do you have any question, or did I left something? No. Everything is crystal clear?
Yes, sir.
Then I will definitely ask.